Okay guys, let's make New Year dumpling together. Today we're going to make zucchini shrimp pork dumplings. Since we are making this from scratch, so we're going to make the dough ourselves. So I usually don't really measure how much flour I'm using, but for the instructional sake, so I'm going to pour the flour and telling you the detailed measurement. So I have 200 grams of flours. That usually is enough, sufficient enough dose for making about 40 to 50 dumplings, because I make like small size dumplings. So and then I will add some water. So I'm adding the water, and ideally the dumpling dough should be soft enough. So I currently added 160. I'm going to stir it and check flour that you use. Now you can see the dough is forming like a ball together and pretty easily. There is not much of the dry flours laying around, so that should be all set. So there you have 200 grams of flour and 160 grams of normal temperature waters, and you will mix them up until you don't see any dry flour, and you will let it rest for at least 30 minutes. So after we finish prepping the doughs, we're gonna do the next step, which is prep the fillings. So next step, let's make the fillings. So in a bowl, because today we are only making dumplings for 3 people, so I have roughly around half pounds of ground pork, and this one is like 80% lean, so it's a little less ideal. Usually you want 70% lean or even 60% lean. So first of all, I'm gonna use a bunch of sesame oil. This is the trick that my mom teach me, is like no matter what kind of dumpling you're making, make sure you are generous with the sesame oil. So I am pouring a bunch of sesame oil. I would assume that at least about 2 tablespoons worth. And then because if you're using chives as your fillings ingredients, you don't need scallions or ginger. But if you're not, the scallions and gingers are preferred. And I will cut them. I will cut the ginger and scallions and adding to the meat. So now I'm adding my ginger to the meat. So what I do is I have a ginger grinder and I have a piece of ginger. I usually peel the ginger. So this is a whole chunk, so I will add about most of them and leave only a little bit. And no matter what you do with either it's steamed buns or dumplings or wonton, be a little generous with ginger. So I grinded all of them and I add them in. So you can see how much I added. Okay, so the next trick is actually called a mixture of water. Put the Sichuan peppercorn, scallions, and then ginger slices into a bowl and pour boiling water to it. And give it a few minutes, it will have this nice kind of broth to it. So you drain that slowly, adding water to your ground meat little by little. So after I did this, I will also add salt a little bit and some of the soy sauce. Another trick that you can do is you can put some melted lard into your fillings. That would give the oiliness and richness to the flavor, as well as some peanut oil if you are not allergic. If you are, you can choose olive oil. There is no significant differences. So now I pour all the liquid in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stir that counterclockwise, because I like to do it that way. If you choose to stir it clockwise, do not change it the other way around in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to start by stirring it, and I'm starting to see all the liquid is gone. So I will add a little more of those liquid, and after that you can chill the fillings in the fridge, and you can start to work on the vegetable components of the fillings. Now I'm adding the scallions into the fillings, and I'm gonna pour the peanut oil on top of it, or you can use sesame oil if you like. And I'm gonna use the sesame oil. Okay, and then I will put my fillings back to the fridge. So the next step, I'm gonna prep the zucchini. So I use the mandolin and it's so sliced. So keep in mind, once you put any seasoning like salt-based stuff in the zucchini mix, it will have water came out. So you need to process, get rid of the excessive water before you wrap the dumplings. Otherwise, you will have a very soggy dumplings and it will break the wrappers when you're boiling them. So there is a process in the middle that is additional. Same thing goes with cucumbers. That's another type of vegetable that would have a lot of water leaked out after you process them. Here is roughly 3/4 pound of zucchinis. I shredded them with mandolin. I put a lot of salt on the top, you can see that. So I will let it sit for 10 minutes, and then I will squeeze out the excessive waters. So as the dough is resting and the fillings is chilling inside of the fridge, I want to give you guys some tricks when I do my dumplings and other like bun fillings or wonton fillings. I always keep 1-1-1 ratio, which is one proportion of the meat, one proportion of the vegetable, and one proportion of shrimp, if there is a shrimp needed in this recipe. And a lot of people like to say maybe make it 1.5 proportion of meat and then one of the vegetables and then leave the shrimp, which is totally okay as well. My mom always say that increasing the ratio of meat will make people like it more because more meat tastes better. But it's really a personal references. There is no right or wrong answer. Usually 3 pounds worth of the fillings. If you buy the dumpling wraps from the store, you probably typically need 2 bags of the dumpling wrappers. And there is not a perfect answer for it. Sometimes you have wrapper left, sometimes you have the filling left, so it's all good. If the good thing about if you make it from scratch, if you have excessive fillings, you can make the dough and then use the dough to wrap the dumplings. Okay, now I invited my special sous chef to do this process for me. It's a special cloth that's super fine, so you're gonna squeeze all the water out of the zucchini, and as you squeeze it, the actual salt also is away. Okay, that's good, thank you. And you see, this much ball of a zucchini only give you like half of the volume left with the fillings. Thank you so much. Okay, now I will cut the zucchini. You don't need to cut them like super fine, just need to make sure that you won't eat like a huge lump. And repeat this processes of cutting for like a minute or so. You will get a really fine chopped zucchini. The next thing I would do is process the shrimp. I already deshelled them. Now I need to clear out the shrimp digest system, and then I will cut into the small pieces. We want to see the chunk of shrimp, and we want it to be big enough, but not so big that we couldn't fit in the dumplings. And at the same time, this is a 20 to 30 head of shrimp per pound. So that's the size of the shrimp I'm using. So when the dough is well rested, the surfaces is very smooth. So the dough is ready. So now in the bowl, I will mix the zucchini, the meat fillings, and the shrimp. And now I mixed all of them together, and I will give it nice sturdy stir. So it will look like that when you mix all the fillings, and if you slide it down, it will slowly dripping, but it was always form like a ball itself. So it will be perfect when you cook it. So here is a cutting board, very big, just for making like dumpling stuff like that. So I will put it down, and I will slash some of the flowers on the board as a base. Okay, now I'm gonna move my dough over to the board, and I will knead the dough for 1 to 2 minutes. Now after I knead the dough, I cut the small pieces and the rest part of the dough back to the bowl. And then I'm gonna roll out the small pieces of the dough, and I'm gonna roll it out to a longer strips, and I'm gonna separate into each small bowl. And I will add a little more flour on the board. So you use the size of your thumb, kind of like how to measure how much of the dough you need to take off the main, and then you drag them to have a clear cut. You don't want to like drag it through to have a very long stretchy result, right? So you want to do it fast, steady, and then make sure each of those dough you get is the same size. So if you did the wrong way, don't worry, right? You can always come back to try again. Obviously, a lot of people online, you can see they're just using the knife to cut it through with a similar size, which is, both method works. It is just how my mom taught me, and it has been how I have been doing, because in my hand, I know how much dough I need to take, and each time I'm taking the same size. So I will end up having same size of dumplings. So now let's roll out the wrapper after we separate the small individual dough. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna cover it with some flour, and you're gonna hold the rolling pin like this. So when you roll it, you're not hurting your fingers, right? So on the right hand, you using this motion to roll it. On the left hand, you take the wrapper and rotate them. So it will be evenly rolled out. And you want to leave a belly, which is in the middle, you want it to be thick, and outside, you want it to be thin. And you want to roll it out like this. This is how much it will roll out to be, and it should be evenly around the edges. And this is relatively the size that you can pour, like it's in the front of your fingers, and it should cover. That should be the relevant sizes of it. Obviously, a lot of people do it bigger, but this is just how my mom do it, and that's how I grew up with, and I'm used to, and now I'm making it the exact way that she is making it. So in the beginning, it might take some time for you to get used to how to coordination with your two hands with this motion specifically. And then the more you do it, the easier you will find this technique is actually very useful. It let you feel the thickness around the wrapper. And the more you do, the faster you can go. Okay, now I'm wrapping the dumplings with the wrap I just made. So first you have a scoop of the filling, and you want it to fully cover the wrapper with a ring of edges. And then you fold it and you pinch the top, and you use the space between your thumb and index finger, hold it, and use the other thumb to cover the other half of the dumpling. So this way you hold the whole dumpling, and you press the edges, and then you pinch, so you have kind of like a belly of the dumpling. So it will look like this in the front and the back. Okay, so let me repeat this process one more time. You scoop a bunch of fillings, make sure that's enough, and press it down. Make sure you hold it nicely and only pinch on the edges and press it down. So then you have a dumpling with the fat belly and nice look. So repeat this processes till you used up all your dumpling fillings. If you have too much fillings, you can make more wrapper dough. It only takes 30 minutes to rest. Okay, now we need to cook the dumpling. Boil a pot of water, salted like sea. And now we start to boil the water. And after that, we put the dumplings in. Hey, so now the dumpling is boiled, and all the dumplings are floated, and the belly is up, and we will turn off the fire and serve our dumplings.